All right, friends, welcome back. Again, I'm Curtis Robinson here at First Page Wellness, and I'm hoping to give you guys a framework today about the things you need to do before you really start considering opening up your business. So you're thinking about it, you got the right feel for what you're going to do and kind of how you're going to do it. But before you really get the business, let's say the brick and mortar business, the renting or the mortgage going for the actual office and then the equipment that you got to buy, before you hire any of your employees and so forth, we really got to talk about a few things that most people either aren't aware of, or if they are aware of it, they still don't really know all the ins and outs and how to get it done. Got another list for you here today, so we'll talk about a few things. Now, I'm not going to give all the details today. What I am going to do is give you guys information that I hope will get you to write down a few questions so that we can talk in particular on the things you don't know. So again, I could drone on and on and on for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever it would take for me to cover all of these things in detail, or I can give you the premise. You guys can make some notes and then we can talk about those things. You can call me, we can get on Zoom or Google Chat. Always happy to meet with you. That's going to be the best way for us to go about getting these things done. So, I want to talk a little bit about the market. Now, again, this is kind of a businessy kind of a thing. People that genuinely love therapy and are probably good with people. Maybe you feel pretty confident in doing your therapeutic side. Maybe you're a med manager, a psych nurse, for example, psychiatrist. Maybe you're already into some testing as a psychologist. Whatever your background is and that you're good at, you probably didn't get some of these things in college. You probably didn't get them from your supervising therapist or supervising psychologist. So I kind of wanted to go over a few things that really you have to think about. You need to understand the market. All right. Most people fresh out of college, they get their diploma, they stick it on the wall, then they get their license, they stick that on the wall, and then they get a small office, and there they are themselves. They got a desk, they got a computer, they got a light, and they're like, I'm ready to do some therapy. They got a comfortable chair for their client. And then nobody comes, and it's disappointing, particularly at first. So you need to understand the market. When I say the market, you're going to offer a service. The first thing you need to ask yourself is, well, who's going to need my service? So here's a couple of things that I used when I started thinking about these things. And this all goes in a business plan, by the way. If you haven't built a business plan, I can help you do that. Or you can just get a template. They're not terribly difficult. It is a lengthy process, but you need to have that so that you can refer back to it and understand what have you done, what worked, and what do you either need to redo or perhaps sustain, in other words, continue to do. So when you're looking at the market, who needs your help? Well, people that have anxiety will need your help. They'll need not only your help as a business owner, but the help of your therapist, your psychologist, your psychiatrist, your med manager. They're going to need everyone to kind of pull together as a team and help them out. So people with anxiety, a lot of that going around, business stress, family stress, and there's ultimately other relationship stress. All of that builds into anxiety issues, social anxiety, generalized anxiety disorder, phobias, and even panic disorder, things of that nature. Plenty of those clients out there. So if you understand that that's a need, how will you fill that need? Well, you're like, oh, well, I got a license right there on the wall. I got my diploma on the wall. I can handle it. That's a big mistake. Here's why it's a big mistake. I found out early that I was extremely good with anxiety clients, not so good with depression clients by comparison. I could help them, but I felt like the anxiety clients, they were highly motivated they didn't want the anxiety. They wanted to do the work. And the folks that were depressed, a lot of times, you got to take your time with them. They take a little bit longer. They got to get to know you. They got to get through the problems in a slightly different pace. So anxiety clients, I liked them as far as my market goes. They were the number one person, or the person with the number one issue that I thought I could help. They were the ones that I wanted to be my primary clients for me personally. Now, again, I didn't do a whole lot of therapy. I kept about 10 clients a week. It wasn't very much. And then what I did was I had other employees that were good at the things I wasn't good at. So the second group would be the depression clients. Plenty of depression out there. Something as simple as postpartum depression or baby blues, something, when I say simple, it kind of is short in duration. Typically women get over that relatively quickly. Then there's the major depressive disorder. Then there is atypical disorder. There's all kinds of bipolar disorder or other mood-oriented things that manifest disorder. And when you're kind of looking at that group, there's plenty of those people, and you got to be able to help them, or you hire somebody to help them. Grief. This again, hopefully short in duration. If you've got a client that's struggling with grief for more than a short amount of time, 30, 60, 90 days would be reasonable. If somebody's been in grief for a year, imagine how that's affected their other relationships, their job, their own personal health. These things are very difficult to manage. So if it's not you, who is going to address people with grief? Now, grief manifests a lot of times in forms of depression as well as some anxiety, so kind of keep that in mind. Trauma. Trauma is interesting to me because most of the time, unless they just tell you they have trauma, those clients are going to manifest anxiety and depression. And you're going to be treating anxiety and depression. You're going to be like, dude, we're making great progress, man. We're getting to the top. We're doing great. And then they tank. And you're like, what happened? And they're going to say, it's just not working anymore. And you're going to have to reassess. And then once you realize it's trauma, you got to be able to dig out the trauma in order to help them long term, even though the anxiety care that you gave them was helping or the depression techniques was helping. The bottom line, without digging out the trauma, it's just going to remanifest in different ways. It's just not going to work. So have somebody that's good at trauma-focused CBT, extremely good. There's other trauma-focused modalities out there. You're going to need those. And that is a huge part of the population that you can provide services for. Remember in the beginning, I said I opened my therapy practice after retiring from the Army because I really wanted to help veterans. And veterans oftentimes have some sort of survivor guilt or PTSD or some other related incident to that. And many times it does manifest as anxiety or even anger issues. So there are also clients that are going to manifest personality disorders or some other kind of disorder not otherwise specified. There are some things that are going to be drug related. There is a market for people who are good with, my mind just went blank. They're going to be good with drug and alcohol as well as the dual diagnosis is what I was looking for. The dual diagnosis between drug and alcohol as well as some anxiety, depression, grief, or trauma associated with that. Don't forget that if you're not a psychologist, then you're probably not qualified to do testing. And there's a market for testing. I know a wonderful group here in Conway, and they do nothing but testing. And I'm like, dude, you're missing out on all of the therapy side, the anxiety, the depression, the grief, the trauma, all of these other things. You're missing out on that entire market. And they're like, we are we are understaffed and overbooked just for site testing out 6 months. And I'm like, whoa, 6 months, wow. Hire more people, So you might need a psychologist. If you're not a psychologist, I would say that is a service specific to psychologists. There were psych examiners, LPEs, here in Conway. They no longer offer that licensure anymore. So it is the psychologist that, for the most part, is doing that work nowadays. Then there are psychiatrists and psych nurses, or the PNPs, psychiatric nurse practitioners. Those people are... They are worth their weight in gold in the long run. But in the short term, very difficult to manage because they're expensive. It is a huge expense to have one of those on salary. And unless they are on a split, a commission of some sort, then it's very difficult. They're what we call a hired gun. In other words, you bring them in as needed and you let them do something at another practice. You don't have a non-compete agreement. Most of the time, these are going to be your independent contractors, and they kind of come and go as needed. So that med management piece is important. And even if let's say you can't find a psychiatrist because they're like a unicorn, they're kind of out there somewhere, you just never saw one, or you've never been able to hire one. They're starting at $250,000, $300,000 plus benefits in most cases, and then the hospitals are going to they're going to way outbid you, and probably they'll go to the hospitals more than anything, or they'll go into their own psychiatric private practice. So for them to come to your clinic may or may not be full-time, but you can use them to help manage your PNPs, because the psych nurses have got to have a psychiatrist over them that they can consult with. So there again, anxiety, depression, grief, trauma, psych testing, med management, those are the main services. And we're probably talking about an outpatient kind of a clinic. Now, you could do an inpatient clinic. I'm not an expert in inpatient clinics, but what I can tell you is if it's a business, I can tell you the business way to run it. I can help you with the software to get it started. I can get you the phone systems to get that started. None of that is different than what I do. But then the operations, you're going to need an expert in inpatient therapy rather than an outpatient setting. I don't have that same background, so I'm going to just let you know up front, outpatient therapy clinic, med management clinic, those things I can help you with. Now let's talk a little bit about corporate versus small business. So there are franchises out there, and those are cookie cutter systems where they bring you on board, you pay them some money up front, then you pay them a royalty along, and your whole job is to do what they say do. Remember I said in one of the other videos about standard operating procedures, the SOPs. These people give you exactly what you need to do step by step, and you're paying for it. It is expensive, but it's almost, I hate to say always, but almost always it's going to be a guaranteed success because you're doing what they told you to do. It's cookie cutter. It's kind of hard to make a mistake unless you're hard-headed. If you can follow a recipe, that's exactly what a franchise is. I was a member of a franchise for many years. What a great organization it was. And I tell you, I had a good time. I met great people. We did a lot of co-opting, and in the end, I learned a lot. In fact, most of what I'm telling you, I learned being a member of a franchise. The second group are going to be the corporate entities. Now, these big corporations, a lot of times they've bought out therapy practices because they know that there's money to be made, and they start off as a medical practice. The problem with these groups, you can still make money as an employee there because you're an employee, you're going to be on a salary in most cases. But the problem is that they're really good with medical and they're not as good with therapy. So what you ultimately have is a lot of dissatisfied clients in the therapy world trying to get, it's like a square peg you're shoving into a round hole. And the bottom line is you can't get them in and get them out quick enough for the medical model to work. Remember that if you have, let's say you need stitches or you need a flu vaccine or something like that, you set the appointment, you go in, you sit for 30 minutes, you see the nurse for 10 or 15 minutes, you wait in another room for a doc, the doc finally gets there and sees you for 5 minutes, you get your shot or you get your stitches, whatever it might be, they write up a doctor's note and you're out of there, in less than, really less than an hour, but you've only seen the doctor for just a few minutes. The medical model is set up that way, and you can't do therapy that way. You have to spend, by law, in order to get any reimbursement, you have to spend a minimum of 30 minutes with a client. Usually 45 is more likely, and 53 minutes is for what we consider a full hour, which gives you 7 minutes for a note. I don't recommend corporate, but that's an option. If you want to start a corporate entity, I'm not an expert in that. What I can tell you is how to run the individual clinics, and you'll have to go to a corporate expert to get that corporate piece built. Again, I can get you the systems and so forth in place, but if you're building a corporation, probably I'm not the best guy to talk to, although I hope you enjoy my videos. By the way, please like and share, please subscribe on my YouTube channel, get those notifications, super important. The last one, the one I'm an expert in, the one that I really want to talk about is that small business, man. There are mom and pop operations where it's just one person, one office, one chair for clients to come and sit in, and that is it. That is a sole proprietorship, and I can tell you how to set that up. It's not going to take near as long. It's easier than anything else, but that's not the one I want you to think about. When you're doing that, you are the CEO of your one-man show, and you are the therapist of your one-man show, and you're the billing official for your one-man show, and you're the scheduling receptionist for your one-man show. Wow, that's a lot of work. It is a crap ton of work. What I'd rather we talk about is the small business model, which is going to have billing experts, scheduling reception experts, therapy experts, testing experts, and med management experts. All of those people working underneath your CEO or your president of the company kind of management or leadership style. I am extremely good at that. That's what I did in Conway, in North Little Rock, and in Maumelle. All of our different clinics did extremely well. I was the CEO for several years, and then I moved into more of a development role, and my wife became the CEO. So, I mean, when we're kind of looking at it in those terms, one person at the top, the buck stops with that person. That's the CEO or the president. That's you if you're the CEO, or it's your practice manager if you decide not to be the CEO. And I can help you build that practice manager. Usually you're talking salary, and usually you're going to have to give them most of these videos. You're going to have to get them on board with me. They're going to need coaching from me. All right, friends. So if you understand the market and you understand the system that you want to build, whether it's a sole proprietorship, a small business, which is the big one I'm good at, some sort of corporate entity, or even an inpatient kind of facility. I'm not super good on those, but an outpatient small business entity is what I'm extremely good at. And those are the clients that I really want to talk to. Everybody else, I am here to help you. I can help you. I will help you, but you might need another person. By the way, I can refer you to some of those people. Guys, my name is Curtis Robinson. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit that little bell. You need to be getting notifications. I put stuff out all the time. I'm going to have some live feeds. You're going to want to be part of those live feeds. You're going to want to interact on the live feeds, these live workshops. And I'm also going to be able to talk to you one-on-one by phone, by Zoom, by Google Meet, or however you want. In fact, I can even meet you in person, depending if you want to make the trip, or if you're close enough that we can drive and meet somewhere. That individual coaching is the difference. I've always been better in the military and in martial arts. And even when I was, starting off, I worked in law enforcement for a short while. And then finally, as a small business owner, when I met with the experts one-on-one, I really grew better. Trying to figure stuff out on your own. If you're really good at reading the manual, man, read the manual, but then come find me and I will work out the kinks for you. I hope this helps, guys. Be sure to tune in again, and I'll see you soon. Peace.